Hi, today we're going to talk about why deep breathing and meditation alone don't stop anxiety attacks. And this can be really frustrating or confusing. But if you have anxiety an anxiety disorder and you've tried deep breathing and meditation, you may be asking the question, why do I still have symptoms? And why is this not stopping these panic attacks? And what am I going to do? And so that's what I'm going to explore in this talk. And so um, we're going to dive in here. So, my name's Rachel McLeod. I'm a mental health therapist and an emotional wellness coach. And I specialize in helping people do the brain work for resolving symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And so that's what I do. The brain has a really beautiful process for this. If that process gets stopped and blocked, the brain cannot resolve symptoms for you and or for us. And we will notice lots of symptoms backing up and showing up all over our life. And so that means that our brain is struggling to process. And so because it's impaired. And so we really want to open that process up, so open and get it running, and so that we can get the anxiety resolution and symptom resolution that we're really looking for. This is also the same, this blocked process is also the same process that is responsible for how our brain, let me say that differently. This process is the same process our brain uses to help us have insights, epiphanies, new ways of being, mastery, growth. I need to hook my brain up here. Mastery, growth, and maturation. And so this is, these all things are these, I'm scrambled up, people. All of these things are really, really important for our mental health and wellness. This is, if we don't have these things running, it's very difficult for us to experience success in our relationships, in our emotional intelligence, in our goals setting and reaching our goals. We're going to have malfunctions here because our brain actually cannot do the work required to support you in having high levels of wellness or success in these areas. And so we really want to support the brain here. This is where I say we're going to lead with brain function. That, yes, I want you to go get your goals, but maybe trying to do your goals using behavioral methods isn't, we're not, that's not really where we want to put our energy first. We want to get this brain process up and running and then go. And the good thing about this process is it doesn't take a lot of time to support it. You can actually support it in about 30 seconds to get processing running. And then you can give it another 30 seconds if you need it, and another 30, and another 30. And maybe you've spent 4 minutes supporting this process and you've got a lot of processing going. Okay. Now, you might be like, well, why do I have to do all that work? And what's this have to do with breathing and meditation? And the deal is that the part of our brain that creates the impairment to processing is our survival system. And this part of the brain is designed to need to pick up safety signals from the body, starting in the body, that go through up the brainstem and talk to that part of the brain to say, oh, we're safe, we can let processing happen. And so that part is also receiving information that says, we're in danger, close this down, fight, flight, freeze, faint, or fawn, right? And so if there's threatening information moving from your body up, that part of the brain is going to be reactive and close down processing and go into fight, flight, freeze, faint, or fawn. And so that's not a healing state, right? And it's difficult to be meditating while you're actually in a survival state, right? And I'm going to talk about that, where it's like, well, but won't the meditation help? Could. I'm going to show you the dynamics involved, and you could see if meditation is helping you or not. But it's hard to get the benefits of meditation while you're in that state. Okay. The other thing is that we really want to support that part of the brain. At the same time, it's receiving information that would have sent it into fight or flight, but now it's also, we're coming beside it and we're providing the specific support that it's designed to receive from our environment and our family systems and ourselves that keep the processing process open and running and effective, right? Okay, so we want to send both signals at the same time. Life is going to help us send signals that are going to be absolutely threatening to our survival system. But we can come along and provide this other information at the same time that soothes and influences our survival system to stand down. Let's let the top of the brain process and work with this. And the survival system responds really well to this information that we can provide to it. Right? I teach my 3 favorite strategies for talking to your survival system, and there are a ton more. You might be seeing them in your environment, people might be talking about them, and you want to grab those up. But let me talk about deep breathing is one of those things. Deep breathing will absolutely communicate to your survival system that it's safe. Okay. And so what happens is that on the exhale, that's a thing, but it's really on the, I am so reversed, guys, and I don't want to start this video open. I'm going to do a little energy work on myself and see if I can get my brain cooperating. Let me show you. Our brain, our processing abilities can get switched so that the right and left hemisphere of the brain aren't working together in a seamless way, like mine are demonstrating today. And so you can help them by doing little things with your body. Like right now, I have my middle finger in my belly button, and I've got my other middle finger and thumb on points that support right-left communication on the kidney meridian. And so I've done my other exercises that usually switch me out of this, but sometimes you need a little deeper support, which is the exact reason I'm making this video. Okay? Because sometimes the basics aren't enough. Sometimes the basics are great, but the problem is more complex than the basics can support. Okay. And that's really what's going on with deep breathing. What would happen is, I don't think deep breathing would help me right now because I actually have a brain crossing over challenge that I'm experiencing. But when we take a deep breath in, we're working with one of our systems, but it's the deep breath out that our brain is listening, that our survival system is listening to. It signals safety, because when they have short, shallow ones, that says we're in danger and we should be running. And so the survival system is like, oh, we should be running. Bet, I got you. And so off you are running, and you're in fight mode, flee. You're in flee mode. And there you go. Because it's interpreting things by the sensory data that's moving through your system. So you might be having some challenges going on, but you can tell your system, hey, we're fine, by having a long exhale. No one fleeing from a lion has ever done a long exhale while they're fleeing. And so this is your survival system's way of interpreting, are we safe or are we not safe? This is not a logical process. This is not a logical part of the brain that we're working with. We were working with a survival part of the brain. It wants to know, are we going to live or are we going to die? And it's not going to, if it thinks we're going to die, we're not even asking questions. We're off and running. And so don't logic or reason with this part. Come in and talk to it in its own language. Are we going to die? That's a whole book about we're safe. Look, we have time to exhale very deeply, right? This is working. We're going to work. But I'm going to show you how, because this stuff alone doesn't always do it. Meditation, great. There's a lot of relaxation that happens in meditation. When we relax our muscles, we are sending signals to the survival state that we're safe and we can allow processing to happen, right? So if you can relax your your thighs and your glutes and your feet and your arms, you're sending those signals that, hey, because nobody who was being chased by a lion relaxed those parts of their body or their arms. We were running, right? So it's very interesting for that part of the brain to receive information that this is painful, but we're also safe. That's what we want it to, that's the conversation we want to have with it. There is pain here, but it's safe. And I don't want you to have it in words. I want you to have it in the way your survival system will understand. That's the part of the brain we're trying to influence here. That's the part of the brain that's blocking our healing process, and the one that we need to use to resolve these anxiety attacks. Okay? Anxiety represents that there's information and energy moving through our mind-body system that the survival system is interpreting as dangerous, and it's blocking the healing process and shifting us over to fight or flight. And so now the information and emotion is being utilized for survival methods, for survival processes, for survival purposes. And we're using that information and energy to fight, flight, freeze, faint, or fawn, period. Okay, that's what anxiety is about. So when fight, flight, freeze, faint, or fawn, and our processing is shut down and we're going in the survival mode direction, it's generating our symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress. Okay, but it's actually data and information about what's going on in the world. We actually need to get it to our parts of the brain that do executive functioning, sorting, interpreting, understanding, insight, clarity, epiphanies. We need to get it to those parts. And so that they can make sense of it and help us to respond to what's going on in our life effectively. Right? What happens is we'll have something trigger us. Maybe we're walking by a place where we had a big fight with, or our parents got in a big fight, and when we get there, we're going into a survival state because our brain is actually, our mind body system is actually running the data of what happened in that moment, and it's dangerous. And your survival system doesn't know if it happened then, now, future, doesn't do time, so it thinks it might be happening now. So now we're in danger and we're running. But if we can take some deep breaths, we can process that. Okay. And so then you can come by where your parents had that fight, and instead of getting into fight or flight mode, you can stay in processing mode and all that stuff gets resolved. Okay. These are wonderful practices. I want you to do them. I want you to do deep breathing, meditation, but I also want you to understand that your system, to get health and wellness, your system has to process the information and the energy moving and emotion moving through your body. It can't utilize it for fight or flight, and we're going to create winning. That's a evidence that we're in the wrong brain state, that we're not actually getting the value of our emotions and information moving through our body, and we're not processing it. Right? That's what's going on there. But what happens is, and that's what we want to see. But what happens is sometimes while we're deep breathing or meditating, we can't get something processed. There are barriers to processing something fully. And some of the reasons for that is what's coming through the system is just too big. It's too big for the brain to work through. And so it's working on it. We're doing the deep breathing. We're doing the meditation, but it's just not, and it's going to fight or flight. And you're sitting there trying to meditate, and your heart's racing, and your panic is welling, and you're about to have a panic attack. So you jump out of meditation or deep breathing, and you change focus, you distract, you get out of that space. You get away from that thing that's moving through your system that's too big. This is where and why we need some more advanced strategies, because we actually need to take this big thing and we need to break it up into small pieces that are bite-sized enough for your brain to process them. Right? We don't give a whole hamburger to a baby. We actually cut it up into itty-bitty pieces, because we're matching the ability of processing and digesting and chewing to the baby. We don't want to say, "Oh, I know you can't do this, but let's put it through your face." Over your whole head, right? We actually are doing we're interacting in a realistic way. We're seeing the problem. This is too big, and we're putting a solution here, and now it's running nicely. There are skills for this. This is the stuff I'm teaching in my program, Inner World Transformation. And when you find stuff that deep breathing or meditation alone isn't resolving, then you can use a skill to break this into small parts. And the skills people are using all the time, you just don't know. You need to be intentionally like, no, this is where we use that skill. Break it down. Right? Find the solution and find a way of helping your brain process that. So this is the very first strategy I teach in my program, Inner World Transformation. And so this is something you're going to want to learn if you have anxiety that deep breathing and meditation isn't resolving. This is mostly the case with complex anxiety, complex depression, and complex PTSD. If you've got simple anxiety, simple depression, simple post-traumatic stress, which there are those things on the earth, Deep breathing and meditation is going to be wonderful for you. You're going to do it and you're going to be like, "Ooh, I feel so much better." On you go, because your anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress was simple enough and small enough already that your brain just needed to get into a regulated state and it processed it. Great. Your survival system just needed to be informed through the exhale of the deep breathing, that we're safe. Yes, this is anxiety, this is painful information, but we're also safe at the same time. You see, we have both components moving, and that's how we support the brain through this. Another reason why we're trying to deep breathe and it's not working is because what's triggering us is actually not anywhere in the present, and our brain can't work at it from here. We actually need to find the root issue and help the brain work through the root issue, which might have been 50 years ago. My 60, 70, 80 clients are really distressed that stuff that happened in their when they were 7 is still impacting them. Yes, because that's how the mind body system works. And if you're in your 20s or your 30s, this is still how your mind body system works. And you can help your brain go through there, find the root issue, get that resolved. And then what the anxiety that's showing up in the present moment is, it just resolves and it becomes more simple. It becomes just today anxiety instead of today plus what happened when we were 7, and then all the other intervention things, that the challenging moments that happened between there. And that's complex. Your brain cannot always resolve that. There are skills for this. You could combine, and this is what I'm teaching, where you can combine a deep breathing exercise with the ability to find the root, go to the root, and work that forward. Brains love that kind of support because that first original moment was where the brain made the first survival, the first processing error on the issue. And so it's the least complex place to work with it. And so if we go back there, we can hop in there, 10, 20 minutes of processing in there, deep breathing. I use other interventions. I don't like relying on deep breathing alone, but it's a valid way of doing it. And you could, if that's the one your nervous system loves, fabulous. Okay, so we're going to go back there with an intervention and we're going to pull that through. Also, some reasons why we can't actually process anxiety with deep breathing or meditation alone is we actually don't have the wiring to process this. I don't know how to explain that one with words. That's actually what it is, but I want to show you something that I had a client who was having a challenge doing some work. She was having really big distress about it. And it ended up being a fear of failure. She didn't want to see that she was a failure. She didn't want to look inside because she didn't want to discover that she was actually a failure. And so because of her uh, painful relationship with failure, she didn't have she didn't have the ability to take her brain into where it needed to process and do the work. So actually, we had to work with her fear of failure. So we had to start pulling apart beliefs and regulating and getting her, like, mentally, if she were to touch it, her mind would explode in shame and pain and fear. And so we had to get all that shame and fear and explosion. We had to get that processed so that she had enough healthy functioning around the concept of failure that she would be willing to go ahead and look in and do these other things and process them. And so there are many blocks that can block us from resolving our anxiety attacks, and we need to support the brain through all of these. And if it needs to be able to rebuild your failure programming before it can get to resolve the anxiety attack you're having around driving or meeting new people or having people in your home, that's what we have to do. And so, but if you're like, I'm just going to go breathe about it, that's actually not where the problem is. The problem is actually in your belief about failure. So sometimes we try to help the brain through stuff, but we're in the wrong ballpark. And that will impair things. And so one of the things about deep breathing and meditation and all the interventions I teach is that they provide general processing support. That's awesome. Your brain's going to do a lot of healing work with that. If you're intentionally using interventions, and I encourage people to do this up to 2 hours a day when they start working with me, or when they start using my strategies or following my processes, because we want to give the brain tons of support throughout the day to process. We want to amplify general processing, right? And then that's only going to get us so far, because actually the brain has very specific and targeted challenges, and we are going to use strategies that are very specific and targeted, and we're going to help the brain right in the spot it needs it. And there are lots of strategies to get right in that spot. That's what I'm teaching in my program, Inner World Transformation, is to go beyond just providing general support and actually doing exercises that are going to help you pinpoint the root issue that you're having. And your brain will tell you all about the ones you're having. They're not going to tell you all the ones that Susie and Henry are having. They're going to tell you about yours. And so when you learn how to take that information from your brain, thank you, I know exactly what to do with this, and you're using strategies in that I teach to take that information and help your brain process with it. Now we're not only doing general support, we're doing specific and targeted support. And that is huge. So I would say the ratio, this is really important, but the ratio is, if an ounce of a specific and targeted work will take care of a pound of general work. And when I was going through this, it took so long because I had no idea there was specific and targeted work. And it took me about 3 years to really work through my OCD and start to crack into my complex PTSD. And so, but all I had was, oh, there's a problem here. Let me just general processing. And that's what I would do. I'd do that a ton. And that's enough to get your brain to untangle this. But now I can get people through that in 2 to 6 months. That took me 3 years, and also 7 years, and whatever. And as learning my inner world, I get in there and work on things here and there now occasionally, but which is not because, gosh, I opened up a whole portal there. That's a whole live video. And because we use this process also for personal health and development. Okay, so that's not a failure. Anxiety and inner world symptoms will always tell us about our processing challenges. And I don't know a human that doesn't have processing challenges. When has somebody ever lived a fulfilling, exciting life and not run into something they were like, I don't even know, right? That's a processing challenge. That's like, I need to work on this. I need to process this a little bit, right? That's these skills that we're building. You can use them for a lifetime. You can support your brain for a lifetime with them, because you're actually just facilitating processing either generally, or you have the skills to help out. I see you're struggling there a little bit, brain. You're lagging in processing time. We're still working on this. Okay, let me help. And you can get in there and find the specific issues with more advanced skills, and really help your brain process that. And then it all comes undone, and your brain's like, oh, thank you. Let me build some new things there. Let me build some more health and wellness, because that's its job. Its job is to continue to build your health and wellness. And so if it's having challenges doing that, we really want to support it. So I want you to see the difference there between why these things don't always stop anxiety attacks and what you can do. However, I am not saying don't deep breathe and don't meditate, but I am telling you meditation can make people's symptoms worse if they have processing challenges. And this is usually the case with complex PTSD. Okay, so if you've got complex PTSD, you're going to want to really make sure that your processor, that you really know how to support your processor. And if you really work yourself with processing, your brain is practicing that, and it's going to get better and better and better and more independent. And you can really get yourself to a place where your system gets to enjoy all the benefits of meditation. So I hope that answers a lot of questions. Thanks for hanging in there with me with my little wild brain function. Definitely try the intervention if you would like to, at your own risk, right? Taking full responsibility for yourself. It's really wonderful, especially if you have your rights and lefts switched. It's great for that. Anyway, I'll see you all around. Take care. Bye.